Luke Michael Howard, clinical hypnotist and owner of Hypnosis here with Scotty Fish. Scotty is a great client of mine that I last saw about a year ago, and he's going to tell you a little bit about his experience with me. Hey Scotty, how are you?
I'm doing awesome, Luke. I'm doing awesome. Good to see you, man.
You too, man. So if you wouldn't mind, why did you come and see me originally?
I came to see you because I was struggling with grief, depression, alcoholism, drugs, pretty much just a mess of a life that I created. And I was trying everything that I figured was the best for me, and I couldn't catch on. I couldn't get it. I couldn't grasp it, and it led me down another horrible road, health and relationships and just everything. And this journey for the last year since we did, it's just been over a year since our last session, and then I sort of lost touch with you on my own accord, and I've been thinking about you ever since.
So what made you book with me originally?
I was doing some courses with a mutual friend of ours, and you just kept popping up and you kept popping up, and then finally I was just drawn to you like a moth to a flame. I'm like, I gotta talk to this guy, man. Like, he's just, the energy's there. There's just something that I have to speak to. And then shit.
Flame.
Yeah. And by the way, I hope you didn't trademark that, because I use that still quite a bit. I had it on a bracelet.
Moth to a flame?
No, I believe, always believe.
Always believe. I think the Ultimate Warrior trademarked that, but he's dead now. So I got it here.
Yeah. So it's just been something that I've been called to, and I was passionate about it, and I loved it, and I believe it works, and it was that like wild card where it's like, fuck it, I'm gonna try it. Pardon my language. I'm gonna try it, and I got to make it work. Something has to change.
Yeah. Yeah. Go ahead.
And it did. It was changing. It was just the time of year and the season I was in, and I didn't follow through 1,000%. Like, I wasn't fully committed, and I was still hanging on to things that weren't serving me, but the way my brain was telling me, it was telling me, like, yeah, we could do this. We're good. We're fixed. Absolutely wrong.
What was happening for you in your life when you decided to book with me?
My brother's anniversary of his passing, the end of April, and it's always been tough because it falls on my birthday. Well, your birthday as well. Happy birthday, by the way.
Fellow Taurian here.
Yeah, Mother's Day. Yeah. Yeah. And it was something that, like, I wanted to make him proud. And I know I hurt my family a lot. More than my family. I hurt my life. I hurt everybody. And I thought it would be a good tribute, like a good little send-off, to come back a year later and be like, you know what, I did something.
Yeah. So you originally, you had this major problem or presenting problem of drinking too much that you wanted to stop, and then you had lots of stuff like orbiting this problem, if you will, like your brother passing, the anniversary of that, and so forth, and some other stuff as well. So with the drinking, kind of explain that to us, like what was the issue with you and drinking and alcohol in that business?
It was an ongoing endeavor. It led to copious amounts of alcohol and drugs. It got really bad when it comes to health related issues. Again, everything, possessions, everything was it was already gone, but I was finding ways to make it work, which in turn were not the right decisions. I was throwing up blood. Like there was just a lot of nasty stuff that was happening within my body. Losing lots of weight, lots of head traumas and fighting, and just it was a very, very dark road that I was masking quite well. But I didn't get down to the root because I was scared. I was scared of myself. I was scared to look in the mirror. I was scared to wake up in the morning. I didn't want to wake up in the morning at times, face the world. But when I did, I had to face myself and say, listen, you're a fucking alcoholic, man. Like this is killing you and you're going to die. Like you need help. It's too much. And that's what my mind was telling me. And then trying to beat your own thoughts and switch it is something that I'm just learning to give myself credit for, because there's a lot of people that just give up, and I fucking never gave up.
Yeah. And I remember you told me about some kind of medical condition, right, when we first started to work together. And correct me if I'm wrong, but yeah, give us some more details. But I remember you saying something to me along the lines of, we saw your doctor and he gave you like what, a year or 6 months to live if you kept
You'd
drinking.
be lucky. Yeah, you'd be lucky the way you're going to make it another year. Like it's fast. And he was right. He was right. And it's not even just what was going on inside my body, just going outside of myself, and it's where I'm at, who I'm hanging out with, the mistakes that I'm making. I was with some pretty dangerous people in my journey. Like I went from one side of Ontario pretty much to the other, and yeah, I met a lot of people along the ways, and not everybody likes me. We'll just say that.
Well, what's the quote? If you're not pissing off at least one person a day before noon, then you're not investing enough in your life. So I pissed off 10 people today already. So I'm at two.
I've been good so far. I think I might be out 2, and they're in line at the bank.
We've got to play catch up now. So when your doctor gave you that diagnosis, if you will, how long ago was that?
That was probably 13 months ago.
Wow. Okay. So
Maybe 14. It was in early of last year. I still don't even have my years. I don't even know one year blended with the other for a while. So it was a year. So it was probably 4 months before we had started. So 16 months, say 17 months.
So you outlasted the doctors. What's the terminology? The diagnosis. There you go. Great. So you've already beat it. So you've already won.
We're out. Yeah, that was tough.
So up until we started working together, I know I wasn't your first call. I know you tried other stuff as well. What other stuff had you tried before we met to stop drinking?
I went into like a spiritual group called the 13, and it was a mindful group, and it was amazing, absolutely amazing. It was a 13-week course, and that was roughly right before you sort of like, there was a stagnant period, and then it was like I went off the rails, and then it's like, fuck, I got to get on something, got to get it, and then that's where then you had come in, and another gentleman. From there, it was basically AA, NA. I was in those groups, and work. I would just dive into work, and it kind of prolonged it, but it nothing was working, and it was just, I just gave up. Like,
why do you think that until we started to work together that you did all that stuff, but none of that stuff like NA, AA, cold turkey, senior doctor, why do you think none of that worked up until that point?
Number one, it was just the amount of effort I was putting in.
Okay.
I wanted it. I didn't know what I find now, like at the present, looking back, is I was scared to face myself. Even looking at me in this video right now, like I was scared to look at myself. I was scared to see what would happen. I was scared to face finances. I was scared to face my family. I was embarrassed. I was ashamed. I was defeated. I had to like, I had to, I had to absolutely admit 100% I'm fucked. And I can't do this by myself. I can't do it with my own will. I need help. Um, and I had to put in a journey, and I still tried to run from myself. I did run from myself countless times. And I was so beat up, and just, I was a walking skeleton of, you know, flesh. That's all I was. There was nothing in me.
Mm. And what were your thoughts of hypnosis, hypnotherapy, hypnotist, all this business? What were your thoughts about all of this before we started working together?
In my own personal opinion and belief, funny enough, because we just talked about you today, I was talking with you with one of my other guys, very intelligent guy too, and he asked me the exact same question. You've come up quite a bit, by the way, because now I'm speaking more openly about it, and I'm still doing my digging on it and the research. I believe in it fully, 100%. I see how it works. I enjoy it. I feel refreshed afterwards. It's not like the stigma attached to it whatsoever. So I'm grateful that they're starting to change the wording and whatnot, because I did some NLP training as well. And just the stigma behind a hypnotist and all that stuff is just absolute hogwash, if you ask me. But I got a very open mind and an open heart, and you know, when something works and I see it work firsthand, you can't beat it. You really can't.
How would you describe your experience of working with me?
Mine? Oh, it's been great. I love it. I love how you're so direct. You're right in my face. You swear with me. You can just be you, and I can just be me. And you don't judge. You don't criticize. You're bang on with your stuff. And you know, when I'm doing some of the catalepsy, you know, it feels kind of weird. So you kind of you can pick it up, and you can speak in a way, in a manner, in a demeanor where it's like, you know what I'm doing, and you know I'm like, this is fucked, you know, this is kind of weird, and then you just bring it right back, and you get that thought out of there where you just allow yourself to just let it happen, just let it happen. And that's one thing that I find people find weird, or strange, or whatever you want to, whatever the word is you want to label it. People get kind of weird about it. It's weird how it happens, but when it's happening, you're like, whoa, what the hell is going on here? It's awesome. And then at the end of it all, you really don't notice, you know, you don't notice anything different. You still come back. You're just nice. You've got something wherever it is. Like for me, I think a lot of it was right here.
Hmm.
And in my throat. Like that's where I was feeling a lot of it. And you had pulled it out. And even now, like, I'm getting goosebumps just when I can go right back, and I'm just rolling the tape forward. And it's like, wow, like this is like we've been talking for a year nonstop.
So, how did you feel at the end of our sessions, generally?
Lighter, a lot lighter. My thoughts were more precise and clear. And the part that I didn't follow through with, which now knowing what I know, was the meditations that you had sent. So a lot of people saw some of our videos, or some videos with you working, but they don't see your follow through and your homework, so to speak, which is a critical part. So people, and this is just me speaking, would see Luke do some work, and then be like, well, that's easy, or anybody could do that. But there's stuff that follows through afterwards. And then I was even lucky enough, which I haven't given up smoking yet. I'm still holding on to that vice. But you were kind enough to also include some of your other teachings as well in some of those, which I might still have, funny enough. And that was like, that's where I was like, wow, this guy really cares, man. Like he's not just a showboat. He's not another handsome Limey, he's a good guy.
Limey. I'm going to use that as my underground name. The handsome, devilishly handsome, cold-hearted. Limey.
But that was it. And the meditations are something I'm getting into again now. And then that's when I was like, oh, I should have. But my journey now without doing that, although it's prolonged it, it's like, okay, this was another piece of the puzzle that I was missing. And I felt, and I'm going to say this now as an amends, like I harbored a lot of guilt towards myself, but more so towards you, because you put a lot on the line with me and you did a lot for me. And I kind of felt as if I let you down a little bit. But most of all, I let myself down. And that was one thing when I was in treatment not too long ago up north, that came up and I'm like, fuck, I felt horrible. I'm like, I gotta message him. And finally I had enough balls to just say, you know what, fuck it. He'll understand. Like, he deals with this all the time. So I did. And I have awesome news to share. Like, although I'm still broke and, you know, kind of homeless, so to speak, but I'm doing it with a smile and I'm doing it with passion and I'm helping people. And, you know, I'm just doing me, and I've been doing me and believing in myself. And like, there's so many different things I got out of it. It wasn't just, hey, Luke, can you get rid of my alcoholism? No, it was, hey, Luke, can you fucking help me unlock my brain here? Because shit's like a rat's nest up there. Now it's still, it's more like a bowl of spaghetti where you can take one strand and just kind of work one strand out at a time instead of sitting there fiddling fucking with it.
So, disclaimer, we didn't work on homelessness and we didn't work on being broke.
No, that's my own accord. That's my own.
But when you look at your life now and you look at it going forward a year from now and stuff, what are you most looking forward to?
Changing the world. And I say that with a square face. I'm not fucking around. I've seen so much in this last year and this journey, and put so much work into myself, even though it doesn't seem like a lot, it was. And like I said, from one part of Ontario right to the other part, one side to the other, just having a heart full of so much love and so much understanding for people, it makes a huge difference. And it doesn't change. It's not going to change. And the smallest little person can make such an impact on society. And a simple video like this, or, you know, just being yourself, making stupid Facebook videos or whatever they are, the quick reels, they inspire people. They really ignite a flame that people have, especially by themselves. And I spend a lot of time by myself, and those little things still come up, like, oh, remember when you did this video, blah blah blah. I'm like, I have no clue, like. And they're like, it really made a difference, it really helped, it helped this person. I'm like, wow, okay, well, hey. And that comes up a lot now, like a lot. Yeah. So that's what I'm focusing on, is making a difference. And this, even in my community, just to start small. But
and as it relates to drinking, where are you with that now?
Right now, it is under control. I did have 2 drinks last week. Now, I didn't finish them, but one was a commemorative shot that I took, and I did that on my own accord, and I knew what the consequences were, and I knew I was playing with a slippery slope. But after that, I went right back and got some. I was honest about it. I wanted to do it. I knew I was going to do it. I had every intention of doing it, and it was a release that had to be done, in my opinion. And from that, it pulled out a lot of shit. It took 3 days of me constantly writing alone with my own thoughts to pull out some pain that I was harboring that nobody could get and nobody could do other than myself. And I worked on that, and I worked on it hard. And since then, I have been amazing.
All right. So, like, before we met, roughly, remind everyone, how much were you drinking on average day about a year ago before we started working together?
I think, well, it was anything and everything I could get my hands on with alcohol in it. But it was between 10 and 15 drinks easily a day.
Wow. Okay. So quite, yeah, significantly higher. So if we look at, I don't know, this year or last 3 months, we're in May, aren't we now? 2022. If we look at like the last 3 months or this year, what's been the pattern with you and alcohol? As in, if we look at it as a continuum over, what have you been averaging?
In 3 months,
Yeah.
I've had 4 drinks, probably 4 or 5 drinks.
Okay, so basically like a drink a month or a drink and a half a month.
No, the one day I had 2.
Okay.
So, and then, I mean, that's been going on now for almost, what is it, May? So, yeah, 3 months, 4 months. I've had maybe 5 drinks, 6 drinks.
All right. So I'm going to pull out my phone because I'm going to put it in a calculator. I'm going to do 3 months, right? So 3 months is about 90 days, isn't it? So typically, you said you were drinking, what, 12 to 15 a day before we started to meet? So
Easily.
Yeah, easily. All right. So on the down low, on the low end. So we times that by 15, 3 months. Oh shit. Wow. All right. That's 1,350 drinks. That's 1,350 that you would have averaged over 3 months. So if we minus that by 5, you've only drank 1,345 less drinks.
And my drinks, when I count a drink, like my drinks were 3/4 alcohol. Like I would count, a 5-ounce drink as 1 drink. So I mean, I was drinking a lot.
So damn it, you only got 95% better. Yeah. Oh, you failed, right? You're only 95% better. Oh my God. It's funny, right? A couple of things. Number one is when we look at stats, and I look at my experience, when it comes to people that are medicating with alcohol, food, cigarettes, sometimes heroin, cocaine, almost always, if we look at the stats, and in my experience of working with people for about 25 years now, there's pretty much always a relapse. Here's a prime example, which is a bit of a funny one. Here's a true story. Guy come to see me about 5 years ago to stop smoking. We were doing 2 sessions. He came in, I think he was averaging about 50 cigarettes a day. He'd been smoking 20 years. Did the session, he was done. We just booked another session just to check up to make sure he was doing okay, and if we needed to tighten up any areas, it was there. But it was just really a check-in. Anyway, so he comes in for the second session about 2 weeks later, and I'm like, how'd it go? It's like, it was amazing. I felt great after. But the day after our session, Luke, I said to myself, I want to know this really worked. And how the guy, we'll call him John, said how he needed to prove it to himself that it really worked.
Yeah.
This is his reality, is he needed to light up another cigarette.
Absolutely.
He lit up another cigarette, smoked it completely, and then when it was done, he was like, oh yeah, it worked. I don't do this anymore, and it was done.
Yeah.
Everyone's different, right? And he's different. I know it worked, but I really need to know how it worked. So I'm going to light up a cigarette, and it doesn't make me vomit by smoking. I smoked it, and I'm like, oh yeah, I'm now done. And that was like about 5 years ago. That was his reality, So everyone's different, but I realized a long time ago we had to build that into the way I work with people. It's 2 steps forward, 1 step back, kind of business gimmick, if you will, and it's like getting there, but sometimes that happens. Sometimes that happens. In fact, most of the times it will happen. You go 2 steps forward, 1 step back, until eventually you get, with a little bit of help from me, to that position that you need to be free. So that totally makes sense. So what would you say? Oh, the other thing, the perfection mindset I want to pick up. Some clients, right, and they're like, I've got £100 to lose, Luke. I know it's a different what we're talking about, but it's not really, because mostly food is an addiction when you're carrying around an extra 100 pounds of body fat. Anyways, I remember this lady I was working with, and her goal was to lose 100 pounds. So we worked together, and I think it was over a year, and she, about a year later, she'd lost about like 96, 97 pounds, I think it was. And we did a session, and she was just down on herself. She was just beating herself up. I'm like, what's going on? She goes, I didn't achieve my goal. I'm like, your goal was to lose 100 pounds. Yeah, I only lost 97.
No.
And she kept it off for like about a year, right? I'm like, you only lost 97. I'm like, aren't you a terrible failure? Of the 100 pounds you could have lost, and you had this trouble your whole life, you were holding on to this terrible weight, you only achieved 90%. It's like you want to be a millionaire, but you only make $100,000. Oh my God, what a terrible failure you are. You absolutely suck. You only achieved 7%. So I'm like, if you achieve, 5% out of your goal,
yeah,
well, pat yourself on the back. It's pretty amazing.
That's where you sold me too, because I remember it was our second or third session, and I drank because it was my birthday, and I went out, and it's a beach, and it was hot, much like it is today, and I was like, shit. Like, I just had a session with Luke, and I convinced myself it was okay to have a couple vodka spritzers. So I did. And then I was so paranoid going up to the whole thing. I'm like, fuck, I don't want to let him down. Like, this guy's an expert, blah, blah, blah. First thing, you're like, so how many drinks did you have? I was like, and I was beating around the bush, and I was like, 3. You're like, so you're not fucking perfect? And I was like, all the weight just came down. Are you telling me you went from 50 drinks in 2 weeks to 3? He's like, fuck, my work's done. Oh, that's where I was sold. I'm like, oh, I'm in. Definitely in. You have to have that. You have to be able to believe that.
I'm a big believer in personal development and getting better, right? It's one of our 6 human needs, is growth. It's really important. However, we have to be careful, and we have to distinguish growth from perfection, because you're never going to be perfect. Neither am I, despite what my girlfriend says. We're ever going to be perfect. So if we hang on to trying to be perfect, it's a mug's game. We're never going to win. We're setting ourselves up for failure, and shame and guilt, right? It's never. But if you're continue to progress, 2 steps forward, 1 step back. Sometimes, if you continue to progress, that's great. There's a great metaphor that I got, and it's basically in Egypt when they make beautiful, expensive rugs that will cost you thousands and thousands of dollars, that are woven over weeks, months by great families that are in the business of weaving these magical rugs, expensive rugs, beautiful rugs that look so beautiful to the eye, and they cost a pretty penny as well, but it's something that will last for an eternity. But these families, what they do is they're making these carpets, as they're making these rugs, they always deliberately put a tiny fault in the stitching that no one else is ever going to see unless you're a professional rug maker, unless you're in this family. You or I wouldn't notice it at all, but a tiny, minute imperfection that only they will see. And they deliberately do that. And they deliberately do that because they realize if it was perfect, we'd stop growing. And if we're not growing, we're dead.
Fair. Yes, that's true. But yeah.
So for the people out there that have got an issue, perhaps it's addiction, perhaps it's drinking too much, eating too much, smoking too much, cocaine, heroin, whatever the problem is. And they've been putting off getting some help. They've been putting off days, weeks, months, years. They've been putting off getting some help. And they're watching this video now. What would you tell them? What would you tell them to do?
Take a chance on yourself. Follow your heart to your biggest desire. Play the tape forward before you take the drink, because the people that are getting the help obviously know what's going to happen and know why they're getting the help. Take that second to just follow through with, where it's led you, where you are, how you're acting, and where you are in your mind. Don't worry about anybody else. Don't think about anybody else. Invest in yourself, and just put the work in. And if you fail or fuck up, don't quit. Keep going, keep going, keep going. That's the biggest thing.
Yeah. Thank you. And I know, especially being a guy, you probably know this as well. Some women will go through it as well, but I know, speaking as a man, that sometimes we're like, I should be able to fix this shit on my own. Okay. I'm a man, masculine, I can't ask for help. I got to fix it on my own. A year goes by, 2 years, 5 years. Yeah, but I'm a man. I'm going to get to it tomorrow. I don't need any help. We do. We all do. It always reminds me of the analogy of, like, we think of these people like great athletes, for example, like a Tiger Woods. Guess what? He had a hypnotist. He also had a coach. Mike Tyson, great fighter. He had a hypnotist. He had a coach. Anyone you can think of on any level in business, in sports, they had a coach somewhere or a mentor. They didn't just do magically, unless they're a trust fund kid, perhaps fell into $10 million or great athletic genes. All the best people at anything had some form of coach or some mentorship or some help to get there. So what would you say to those people that are like, oh my God, I've got to do it all on my own, and even though they haven't done it all on their own?
I tried it all on my own, and it led me to death on multiple occasions. Even in the last year, I couldn't count how many times I've had my brushes with death. And I consider myself a pretty experienced, knowledgeable, tough ginger. Could not do it without the help. Everybody will separate themselves from you, and it's only going to bring you down a darker path, which you are probably going to pick up, because that's what I did, and that's what most people do. But it's just having the ability to ask for help, and there will, as long as you believe, there will be somebody that will hear you and that will believe in you and put their faith and trust in you for the long run, because they actually care about you, not just your bank balance.
What about this one, Scott? I get this a lot, right? Because, you know, I'm straight edge, which means I don't drink, smoke, do drugs, any of that. So then people are like, how can he help me, right? If he's never, well, I drank 5 times in my life, I think, one drink 5 times before the age of 20, and I haven't done any drugs. So people are like, well, he has to have done drugs. He has to have been an alcoholic. He has to have been addicted to some form of drugs. Otherwise, he has no credibility in helping me. That's what some people that are not too. Yeah. What would you say to those people that say the person who helps me must have walked in my shoes and must have absolutely experienced the problem I did? Otherwise, how could they help me?
Well, it all comes back to your background, your history. Like, they may or may not know. Maybe it came from your father. Maybe your father was an alcoholic or an addict, or your mother or somebody along those lines in your family, which in turn, as a young child, you may have subconsciously just grabbed that and held on to it and swore up and down, like, maybe I'm not going to drink because of my dad. And then you went out on your journey in order to get the knowledge and experience you gained as a wee one, to help people so that they don't have to go through the same pains and hurts that you did. And I don't know your background. I was just using that as an example because that's something that's very, very common. And I've seen it a lot, especially in my daughter. I mean, my daughter's seen me in some very, very vulnerable positions and pretty much disowned me. But, you know, she doesn't drink because of that. And I mean, she'll dabble, but she has been through a lot, so it sort of traumatized her a little bit seeing me that way. And I can totally see where people will come from. You don't know, you've never walked a mile in my shoes, but you know, my 15-year-old daughter, she's probably put more miles on her own shoes and her own feet with the experience that she had to witness me go through, and my family.
I also, thank you, I also give the analogy that's a bit like going to a doctor or a surgeon and you've got cancer or you've got some kind of tumor that needs to be removed. Now, he's a surgeon. He's gone years and years of school to help remove this from people. He's never had a tumor, the doctor, the surgeon. He's never had cancer, but he's operated on thousands, tens of thousands of people to remove it. So does that need to have had cancer in order to remove it from you? Then smart aleck people will be like, oh yeah, but that's physical. Mental is completely different. To which I say, then does every counselor, psychotherapist, hypnotist, or any kind of change worker, do they have to have experienced every single mental, emotional, or physical problem that any of their clients could possibly come in to help you? So an example, if someone is dealing with some people that were sexually abused, do they themselves, the counsellor, the therapist, do they have to have been sexually abused to help you? If you're obsessive compulsive disorder, does the change worker, do they have to experience? The answer is no. The answer is they don't have to experience it at all. They just have to have the ability to know your psychology and to help you. And oftentimes when people, because here's the thing, a lot of people I realize in the addiction world, they're like, one of their big things, whether they want to admit it or not, is it's important that you the therapist, you the counselor, you the change worker, psychologist, you have to have gone through it. You have to know how I feel. You have to know how I feel to help you. Fuck off. It's knowing how you feel and helping you to feel something different is two completely different things. If you want someone to know how you feel, truly how you feel, you're never going to get it, because nobody has ever walked in your shoes. Even if they had exactly the same problem, they didn't ever walk in your shoes and process it how you did. So unfortunately, no one is ever truly going to know how you feel, whether they experience your problem or not. But they don't need to have known or walked in your shoes in order to help you. Listening to someone bang on about why their life is fucked up and helping them are two completely different things. I always say, if you want to stay a victim and keep yelling out your addiction story of why you're broken and world's smallest violin, right, and why life is tough and why the world has beaten you up and you can never change, then go to a counsellor. Go to a counsellor for 4 years and you'll still probably have problems, but you'll have the audience of one to listen to.
Yeah. Kudos to you too, because even trying to start a session in your shoes where somebody will come in with that mindset, you can't even get to the place where, per se, you and I with that the rapport building, you can't build rapport with somebody with walls up, and that's or having their family say, here, fix my son. My parents, shipping me off to you saying, here, fix him. Well, fuck, I don't want to be fixed. You guys want me fixed. So to have to be able to break down those barriers you can't do it yourself. Like, they have to want it. They have to want it fully and completely.
They have to want it, and they have to want it for themselves, even though it can help their family and all the bit around them. But they have to want it themselves. And also, I always say to people, if you want someone to listen to you bitch and complain, get a dog, go to a counsellor. That's what they're paid to do. Now, if you actually want change, if you want strategies on how you can stop doing your problem and stop suffering now, not 4 years from now, not heavily medicated, not re-traumatizing yourself by reliving the events, the PTSD, the trauma in your mind. If you want someone to help you with that, I can help you. But if you still want to be, oh my God, it's genetic, my dad drank, my mum did drugs. If you want to hang on to that, whether genetic stuff is true or not, 50% of the scientists say, oh, well, yeah, we're addicted for whatever our issues are, physical, mental, emotional, because it's hereditary. The other 50% says it's nurture. We just learn by modeling our parents or caregivers at an early age. Either way, I stand on the side of the fence of, if you believe it was passed down to you, my dad was essentially an alcoholic, but I made a decision not to do it.
Yeah.
So it's to give a horrible graphic example of this, it's like the person who was sexually molested as a kid then goes on to sexually molest other people, and then you'll see it on trials, and they'll come up and they'll be like, well, the reason I sexually molest people, speaking as that person, not myself, is because someone did it to me. Versus this terrible thing happened to me. I knew it was wrong. I knew how I felt, and I decided never to pay that forward. But people like to cling on because their parents did something. That's why you do it. There's many people that parents drank that don't drink. There's many people that, God forbid, terrible things happened to them. They were sexually abused, and they didn't sexually abuse anybody. So I'm on the side of the fence. It's bullshit. You do have control. Doesn't mean it's going to be easy.
No.
However, you do have control, and it's about reclaiming that and stop playing the victim card. If you want to play the victim card, you're going to stay stuck for the rest of your life. And that's your prerogative. But don't bitch and complain when stuff doesn't change if you're not putting in the time and effort. But when you're ready to put in the time and effort, I can help you, not by over rehashing and re-traumatizing you, but just like a surgeon, getting in there with your permission, you're doing the work, and then getting out, and then you get on with your life, making it the best of your life.
And the neuroscience and all that stuff now is just starting to have breakthroughs now. So there's so many more breakthroughs coming out daily, weekly, monthly about, you know, how the brain's operating and all the things that they're finding now and how it's working and reprogramming and rewiring. Like it's going to be huge. It's taking off. They're finding more and more every day.
What would you? Yeah, go ahead.
No, that's all. It was probably going to be another run-on sentence.
What would you say was the most important thing that we did together in achieving your success and where you're at now? What would you say the most important thing was? Whether it be a technique, whether it be a particular session, or something else, but something that was the most important part in our work together, enabling you to get where you are today.
Pardon me if I tear up here, but your heart. Seeing that you cared for me at a time where nobody else really did, and you put in your full force to do everything that you possibly could with all of your teachings, and for that I am grateful.
Well, don't say that too loudly. I have a reputation of being a major asshole to
So do I. But just the vast amount of knowledge that you provided, so I could do self-work as well, where it wasn't I always had to wait for a call, do the call, and then, you know, call's done for a month or 2 weeks or whatever. There was always homework. There was homework you could do. You did follow-up. You answered my messages promptly. We hopped on a call. I could cry. I could get rid of the bricks and the mortar, just pounding it down. And a lot of people, I know for me, I've got well in touch with my innermost self. So I do get emotional now, and I do have feelings, and I am a person now. I'm not just a skeleton anymore. All the, you know, gaunts, and I'm like 190 pounds now, not 140. And
wow.
Yeah, like and that's only in the last 4 or 5 months. So I've been doing awesome. And I feel like a human, which is the other thing now. Now I'm always excited and full of energy. Like I'm just a ball of energy, like Sonic the Hedgehog, just everywhere. And people are like, fuck, are you still high? Are you still high? Like, well, how can you be so happy? Like, why are you having so much fun with this? Like, you're broke and you're sober and you're lonely. I'm like, I'm broke, I'm sober, and I like being with myself. So,
yeah,
you know.
Oh, man. Anything you would like to say before we wrap it up?
If you have the opportunity, you have to do this. You have to try it. You have to just give it a solid go and follow through and listen to whatever the fuck Luke has to say, because it counts and it could save your life.
Thanks, buddy.
Yeah, man.
Scotty, Fish, I've been Luke, Michael, Howard, Hypnosis. If you're interested in getting some help, then there'll probably be a link on this video or underneath it. This is book your free screening call, where we got on a call and we have a little chat to find out a little bit where you're at and how I can help you to help yourself. That being said, always believe.